Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Mackey Arena here at Purdue at 10:46 p.m. on a Friday night after Purdue defeats Austin Peay 63-44. My mission here tonight with this rap video will be to talk to you about the Purdue basketball game in an intellectual, mature manner as always, while also resisting the urge, suppressing the teenage boy in me that wants to make immature, petulant, stupid jokes about the name of Purdue's opponent tonight. I'm going to do my best here. You all know that I'm above that sort of humor. I never take the low-hanging fruit on dumb jokes when there are dumb jokes there to be made. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support of this silly little endeavor that we do after these Purdue basketball games. We appreciate it very much. Please keep them in mind. It is a fine, first-class facility with outstanding businesses, wonderful restaurants, and so on and so forth. Let me get into this here. I'm already off track. 63-44, Purdue over Austin Peay. Not the most aesthetically pleasing basketball game you'll ever see in your life. Not exactly the model for Purdue this season in a lot of ways. But that is what November and December are going to be for this team. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times since August, which wasn't all that long ago. There's going to be a real process involved for this Purdue team. They're too young. They're too new. There's too many different moving parts going on here for them to not have some ups and downs during November and December. As I always say, it's not about game-to-game improvement as much as it is like week-to-week, maybe even month-to-month. Because the matchups are going to change, the level of competition is going to change. You're going to see Purdue having to acclimate on the fly to a lot of different things, and that is going to create new challenges that Purdue's going to have to keep adjusting to. So you're going to see ups and downs, but you just want to see a better team next week from the one you saw this week, so on and so forth. But also understanding that sometimes you play better teams, and improvement, you kind of have to look a little bit deeper than scores and box scores and whatnot. To find. But Purdue, doesn't shoot the ball well tonight at all. I thought they were kind of loose with the basketball at times, especially in the first half. Didn't play great from an offensive perspective. But the big takeaway, from this game is sort of Zach Edey's throwing down of the gauntlet, so to speak, whatever that actually means. That's something you put on your wrist, I think. And it's funny. I sometimes informally call Zach Edey Thanos for fairly obvious reasons. He's huge and very powerful, very strong, and he puts that thing on his wrist that he puts little gems in. And I've never seen some of these Avengers movies. I just know that all of this seems to be kind of important. If that's a gauntlet, Zach Edey threw it down tonight and reminded everyone that if you defend him one-on-one, you're going to get cooked. And that's sort of what Austin Peay did. They kind of set him up to a certain extent by not throwing a lot of kind of junk defense or whatever you'd call it at him. He got a lot of clean one-on-one opportunities around the basket early, cashed in on all of them, got Purdue off to a good start. The opposite of the Milwaukee game, which I said afterwards was an outlier, and obviously tonight it looks like an outlier. So they went one-on-one with him, and Zach Edey reminded everyone, hey, if you do that, you're going to get dominated. And Austin Peay got dominated to the tune of 12 of 13 shooting, 30 points, so on and so forth. This was a career high in minutes for Zach Edey. That is notable. I do want to remind everyone, I don't think it's about the total number of minutes he plays, but the quality of minutes he plays. And tonight, Purdue got both. You got 31 minutes of career high, but you also got outstanding play from start to finish here. So he was fine in the second half. He was able to sustain that heavy minutes log. That said, I don't know how often you're going to be running him out there for 31 minutes, 32 minutes, whatever it was. 31 minutes and 17 seconds. So I prematurely rounded up. I shouldn't have done that. There are games, too, where you're going to want Caleb First on the floor more. You're going to want Trey Kaufman-Renn on the floor more, too. Maybe not at Zach Edey's expense, but it's not like you don't have good options other than Zach Edey. It's not like you just have to ride him until he collapses. But for him to be able to play 31 minutes and still be effective at the end of the game, I think that was pretty notable. Speaks to his conditioning, speaks to the shape he's gotten himself in. No downside to this, obviously, because the better shape you're in, not only can you play more minutes, but your average minute is probably a higher quality minute. Yeah, something like that, or something. But I just thought he was exceptional tonight. Obviously, nobody beats their chest over beating Austin Peay, relatively uncomfortably too. I mean, this was a game, in the final 10 minutes where Austin Peay makes 2 threes in a row, and all of a sudden you're sweating bullets. But that's not the worst thing in the world for Purdue either. I don't think teams in developmental situations like Purdue really benefit as much from just coming out here and kicking somebody's ass. I think it's good to struggle a little bit. It's really good, to once you've won, you can say this. It's really good to miss all your threes and then still, be able to win comfortably. You put a little bit of an asterisk on that because you don't always have a team that's going to go one-on-one with a player like Zach Edey. Had Austin Peay done more stuff to try to stop him, and then Purdue misses all its threes, then this game might have unfolded very differently. But I thought that Purdue was they just looked like a pretty solid team other than the three-point shooting going sideways on them. I thought they played pretty good defense. I don't think Austin Peay really gives you a whole lot to worry about from an offensive perspective, even though this one guy, Elijah Hutchins-Everett, had a really nice game. Looks like a nice player. Gave Purdue real problems, especially early. But I don't think they're very skilled. They were 1 of 8 from 3 against NC State, 4 of 24. Tonight they had good looks, things like that. But I thought Purdue did a good job defensively. I think there's something to build on here from a defensive perspective these first 2 games. You probably want to play complementary basketball a little bit better than you did tonight. I thought Purdue was loose with the basketball in the first half. I think, the ups and downs the freshman guards are bound to have. It's just inevitable. It's just the fact of life at this level of basketball. I think showed up a little bit. Braden Smith made some turnovers I'm sure he'd like to have back. That he's going to have to play through his mistakes. He's going to have to make mistakes, learn from them, and I think this will go down as one of those nights that can benefit him in the long run. Fletcher Lawyer doesn't make any shots, but I think he still helps you win the game. For shooters, that's uncommon. Oftentimes shooters are out there to do one thing only, or that's how they identify themselves, so to speak. That's how they carry themselves as basketball players. If they're not making shots, what more do they give you? And I think Fletcher Lawyer's done some really positive things in these first 2 games outside of making shots or not making shots, and I think this is going to be a maturation process for both of those guys. I think their floor is higher than a lot of guys would be in the same situation because their basketball knowledge, their IQs, and whatnot are so high. But I think that this is one of those games that, as much as it might not have looked like a work of art, should make Purdue better because there's a lot to clean up here, a lot of stuff underscored, but also a lot of good stuff to build on in terms of knowing you can ride Zach Edey as far as Zach Edey can take you when you need him. But also this baseline Purdue seems to be establishing from a defensive perspective that's much more consistent, much more solid, than Purdue has seen at times, sometimes when it's struggled a little bit. I think a few things that have shown up here in these first 2 games is the energy that you're getting from certain guys. I think your 4s, all 3 of them, have been really good for this team from an energy perspective. I think Mason Gillis is always that way. I think Trey Kaufman-Wren's done some positive things, chasing offensive rebounds, diving on the floor. Caleb Furst in the first half of this game was everywhere. He was all over the place, and that energy was tangible. And I think that's the sort of thing, especially in Mackey Arena, when the crowd appreciates that kind of thing. I think that's the kind of thing where Caleb Furst is going to get a lot of points, a lot of rebounds, a lot of assists this year. He's going to do well statistically. He's going to be a really productive player. But I think it's that intangible stuff, his constant movement, his constant motion, his constant rebounding, his constant hustle, things like that are going to be infectious. with this team, and I think that's that whole position, really. But first really stood out tonight. I thought he did some really good things. As a basketball player, I thought he did some really good things with his energy, and I think he's just going to be a really good player at Purdue. I think another tone that might be getting set for this team, David Jenkins, has one eye for a week. His eye is basically jammed shut for a week. He doesn't practice. He only comes back to shoot around today after getting this monstrosity on his face drained. This just gets more gruesome with every description we get. He comes back to shoot around today after having this looked like a tennis ball tucked inside his lower eyelid. He comes back, he goes to shoot around today, and then he plays. And he's the first guy on this Purdue team to make a three-pointer. Of course, only 7 minutes and 40 seconds were left in the game, but I thought he gave Purdue good minutes. I thought he looked like he belonged out there even when he wasn't making shots. He looked like he was defending. He just looked like he belonged out there. And for a guy who didn't practice for a week, who had every reason to not play this game, I think that sort of toughness, is something that I think can also be infectious, like the Caleb First energy I was talking about before. Those kind of intangible things. That's part of role definition. That's part of team building. That's part of, taking 13 basketball players and making this cohesive mosaic, for lack of a better term, of stuff that ends up being a pretty cohesive, pretty effective basketball team. And I think David Jenkins deserves a lot of credit tonight for his play, but just for being out there. Because people see that. People see this guy coming in, walking in the door, and toughing out what he just toughed out. Didn't practice for a week, comes out here and plays when he could have sat. Purdue needs him against Marquette, so I think it was a really good thing, for him to get out here. But that being said, he went through a lot this week, and I think that sets a great example for these guys. When you're new to a team, you got to get people to respect you. You got to get people to trust you, and there's no doubt in my mind he's done that through the offseason since he got here. But this set a hell of an example for the rest of his teammates, the young guys, the older guys alike. And I think David Jenkins deserves a lot of credit coming out of a game like this. So a lot to clean up here. They got to be tighter with the basketball, as I said before. It's good you win. It's good you make mistakes in winning, but you got to get better. Purdue's got a couple of really important days of practice here coming into Marquette. Marquette's going to really pressure them. They're really going to pressure the guys who aren't Braden Smith at point guard. Purdue's going to have to figure that out. I think they do like a 1-2-1 kind of thing. That's only 4 guys. Whatever. If Marquette's going to play a 1-2-1, Purdue's going to have a lot of success. Get the ball to the corners. Anyway, I can't count these days, so guys, that's what I got. I'm obviously losing track of this video. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however you process our materials. And kudos to me for getting through an entire 13.5-minute video without making a petulant teenage boy urine-related joke after Purdue defeats Austin Peay in a game that really didn't flow very well, if you ask me. 63-44. Damn it! Anyway, have a good night, everybody.